Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmITheDevil for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the posts, giving you my own opinion, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for telling my daughter her adoptive parents won't let me see her? Buckle in for this one. I have an 11-year-old daughter, Noelle. Noelle has lived with a friend of a friend for 6 years and was formally adopted by them 3 years ago, but I've always kept in contact with her and the family she lives with, and I've always tried to visit. Before they adopted her, they lived 20 minutes from me, and I would aim to see her once or twice a month. After the adoption, they moved out of state, so I try to visit 3 to 4 times a year, and they occasionally bring her to see me when the mom has to come back for work. I can tell the mom never liked me. When Noelle was little, she'd tell me that these visits confused her and claimed that her behavior was off for days afterwards, but she refused to let me contact her school or daycare to see how she was doing. Then, she apparently became autistic, which meant that I had a whole other set of rules for whenever I wanted to see her, including where I can take her, what times we had to go to certain places. Zoo is too busy for her weekend afternoons, and after school or early morning on weekends is better. And which gifts I could bring. There was also a time where I had to show my vaccination records before I was allowed near the kids. When she moved, I tried visiting overnight every few months, but I was never allowed to stay in the house because it would throw off the kids. So I had to get a hotel. She started allowing Noelle to stay in the hotel with me under the condition that I get a suite so Noelle can have her own space to decompress. One time I got a suite, but it only had one bed and a couch, so Noelle wasn't allowed to stay with me because she needs a real bed, and she can't share a bed with me. When Noelle is allowed to stay with me, the mom gives me a binder with rules and routines that I have to follow to a T, or else she will not be allowing to stay with me. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous, like Sunday mornings she needs 2 Eggo strawberry waffles, then she needs to watch Beauty and the Beast. The last time I visited, it was a disaster. I got the wrong strawberry frozen waffles, so she threw a tantrum. I sent her to the bedroom without her iPad or phone, so she decided to use the hotel phone to call her adoptive parents and tell them I'm being mean to her, and they needed to get her. The mom and I got into an argument after that where she told me I wasn't allowed to visit my daughter until I'm able to consider her needs. After that visit, gifts I sent were being sent back for being inappropriate. On my next FaceTime call, I told her about all the gifts I tried to send that were sent back, and that I was banned from seeing her because her new mom was mad at me. Now I'm not allowed any contact with my kid until I'm able to respect their rules and boundaries. I'm looking into going to court for visitation rights, but in the meantime, I wanted to know if I was the asshole for telling my daughter I wasn't allowed to see her, and her presents were being sent back. So before OP deleted their account, they actually commented, which thank you, sorry Aril, I think that's how you pronounce that, for snagging the explanation as to why they gave their daughter up. I was getting married, and my husband wasn't okay with having someone else's kid in the house. That's why she gave her daughter up for adoption. They're right there, that. Also, gotta love the offhanded comment of apparently became autistic. No, she was just actually finally diagnosed as being autistic. And you've made no efforts or even attempts to understand their daughter. You gave your daughter up for adoption because your new husband wasn't okay with having someone else's child in his home. That's no longer your daughter. That is a child you are biologically related to. Her parents are the people who understand her, work with her, understand her condition, help her through the day, have boundaries and rules in place, and actually understand how to make her feel comfortable. You do not. You've made no attempts or efforts to even do that. And when you couldn't fulfill something as basic as just buying the right brand of strawberry waffles, you grounded them. Now, thankfully, like I mentioned earlier, OP had deleted their account, so going through the comments is a bit difficult. But thankfully, users Sadly the Worst has come to the rescue, and for those of you who may not recognize the name, they used to appear quite frequently on r/AmITheDevil, and it excites me to say that they are back. And we will be looking at the photo of the animal that they always post at the end of their comment threads. It's a highlight of these. Trigger warning, ableism and child abandonment, copied verbatim from OP's comments. Then she apparently became autistic. Nobody becomes autistic. You get diagnosed by a professional. Your wording is ignorant and disgusting. If you're talking about your autistic child like that, I get why the mom is not letting you see her. You're the asshole. Edit to add, if you're thinking this human is not the asshole or that she deserves some grace, she gave Noelle up because she was marrying some poop-eating rando man that didn't want another man's child in the same house. OP responds, how am I supposed to believe that she's actually autistic if I'm not allowed to talk to her doctor or therapist or read the assessment papers? Another commenter, you're the asshole for putting this 11-year-old child in the middle of an argument between you and her mother. One that stems from the fact that you don't follow the mother's rules when she's gracious enough to let you see her child. Apologize to the mother and back off. Ask for supervised visits and promise to follow the rules up to a T. If you do have any contact via FaceTime or whatever, stop undermining her mother. If the child is contacting you without the mother's knowledge, put an end to that as of right now. That's the only way you can gain any kind of trust. OP responds, I'm not paying $200+ for flights and $100+ a night for hotels just for supervised visits. Another commenter, why did you give her up in the first place? She's not your child anymore. I was getting married and my husband wasn't okay with having someone else's kid in the house. And here's Panko the dog, as linked by Sadly the Worst. In the end, there is a lot that can be dissected from this post here. And the fact alone that she doesn't see an issue with any of her other actions, just the fact of, was I the asshole for telling my daughter I wasn't allowed to see her and her presents were being sent back? Like, that is not the issue at hand. That's also extremely emotionally manipulative. Telling an 11-year-old, autistic or not, your mom is sending your presents back. Just ghoulish. But the issue here is not the FaceTime conversation. The issue here is the constant ignoring of boundaries and the unwillingness to accept the fact that your daughter is autistic, has specific needs, and the fact that you're just actively ignoring them, and their mother doesn't like the fact that you're actively ignoring them. That's the problem here. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for making fun of my girlfriend for writing fanfiction and claiming it's actual writing? My girlfriend Abby, female 31, and I, male 33, have been together for a few months, and this Easter, I was going to introduce her to my family. We haven't moved in together yet. Abby is quite smart. She has a PhD and works in her field. I only have a BA, so you can imagine my surprise when hot and smart women wanted to date me. Anyway, I digress. Abby's passion is writing, although she's never allowed me to read anything she wrote. She dreams of writing a book and says she's practicing and trying to draft things. One day I was staying over and fell asleep, and she went to her office to write. When I woke up, I peered over her shoulder, and she was writing, and I saw names that sounded familiar. I asked her about this, and sure enough, she admitted to writing fan fiction. Apparently, she already wrote 100K fan fiction and is working on her third one. She says it's writing practice, and she loves it. I told her it's cringy, and if she was serious about her book, she'd write it by now, because she's pretty much already wrote 2 books if only they weren't fan fiction. She got silent and told me to leave her alone. When I introduced her to my family, I mentioned she has a PhD. My brother and sister got impressed and asked about it. Abby tried to tell them, but I interjected and told them to not be so impressed because she wastes her time writing silly fan fiction, so I don't know how she even got her doctorate. It was meant to be a joke, but Abby was angry. She called me an asshole. She wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the day and asked me to drive her home. I tried to come in, but she told me she wanted to be alone and write her fan fiction. I told her she was childish, but left anyway. I haven't heard back from her since then, and I told my sister, and my sister agreed with Abby. I tried to call Abby, but she texted me with asshole and nothing else. My sister thinks I owe Abby an apology, but I don't think I did anything wrong, and yet Abby is annoyed. Was I really the asshole here? Never date someone who you feel you have to hide your stuffed animals from. And unfortunately for Abby, she tried to show OP her stuffed animals and he made fun of them. And now, Abby has the not-so-difficult choice to make of, do I enjoy spending time with my stuffed animals, or do I spend time with the guy who actively makes fun of me to his family when introducing me about my stuffed animals, despite the fact that I have a doctorate? Actually, wait a minute, I take that back. I think it's because she has a doctorate that he's making fun of her. Because he's got to get a leg up on her somehow, right? I think he's uncomfortable with the fact that his now probably ex-girlfriend had more accomplishments than him and was threatened by it. So when he found something which he found cringy, he jumped on it and made that her entire personality to anyone he introduced her to. See, I used to do a little bit of fan fiction writing and yeeting them up onto the void that is AO3. Alright, I've done my fair share of that. And honestly, sharing fan fictions with your significant other is kind of a pretty serious thing. I mean, it's the same thing as having them go through your sketchbook or showing them something that's important to you. Because it's a part of you that you're expressing. Even if it's just a fan fiction, it's still important. And also, just because it did kind of bother me, writing a fan fiction is still writing, much like how sketching is still drawing and still a form of art. For some people, it's the first of many steps for their book. And it's a big part of who you are and what you enjoy spending your time on. And he saw that, called it cringy, and just relentlessly made fun of her for it. So again, never date someone you feel you have to hide your stuffed animals from. And Abby realized that she would have to hide her stuffed animals from OP and got rid of him. Good for you, Abby. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for taking away my daughter's car for lying to my fiance? I'm 36 and have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because her mom, 40, had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend, 21 female. Then, quarantine happened, and that time apart made me realize that I wanted to spend my life with her. So I proposed in May, and she's moved in. Our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my younger sister, 25, keep calling my fiancé the kid. My fiancé decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity. So yesterday, when my daughter once again said she was going to practice her serve, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling up to a diner and I realized she was grabbing lunch with my youngest sister. I was furious. First at my sister for enabling toxic behavior, and second at my daughter for lying to her stepmom. I ended up taking her car keys away from her. Her aunt then calls and says I had no right to do so. I explained that she would not be getting her car back until she makes an attempt to bond with her stepmom. Am I the asshole for not condoning lying? I just want my fiancé to be accepted into the family. Okay, that is not what the post is about, bud. I mean, I guess if you boil it down and ignore everything else, sure. But if you're trying to get your fiancé to be accepted, then this is not the way you go about it. Also, I'm sure it probably doesn't help that there's quite a bit of tension considering the fact that, your fiancé is closer to your daughter's age and your younger sister's age than you are to either of them. Probably doesn't help. And I would imagine that's probably creating some tension here. You gotta remember that before you try to force your fiancé to hang out with your daughter. There's a 5-year age gap between them. And it doesn't help that you're also trying to push this forward under the threat of punishment. That is not a good way to even remotely try to build a relationship between a child and their soon-to-be step-parent. I mean, you're putting your fiancé's comfort over your daughter's, and you went out of your way to punish your daughter because she felt uncomfortable telling you that she was getting lunch with her aunt, because you were so pressed that she had to spend time with your new fiancé. You're trying to force a relationship that she currently doesn't want. And now, whenever she sees your fiancé, she's just going to say the fact that she was punished because she would rather hang out with her aunt and get food with her than spend time with your fiancé. Which loops us back to, this post has a lot more going on than just OP not condoning lying. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Would I be the asshole if I asked my flatmate to tone down her crying at night? I, 28 male, live with a flatmate, 26 female, who I have known since university. We've been friends for a few years and moved in together last year. She came to the UK on a scholarship from an NGO several years ago, studied here, and now has a good job. She lives a very Western lifestyle, is not religious, goes out socially, dresses however she wants, and has told me more than once that she never plans to go back to where she's from and hopes to get UK citizenship eventually. She also once said she would not even be let back in anyway, since they don't usually allow people back in, as she's a stateless person. A few days after we moved in, she told me that she had lost contact with her younger sister and both parents. Apparently, communication just stopped, without warning, and she's not been able to reach them since. At first, she seemed mostly okay. She acted normal, stayed busy, and did not appear too shaken. But about a month in, she started crying more often, sometimes even in front of me, and it became a regular thing at night as well. That went on for a while. These days it only happens at night, but I still hear it through the wall every so often. It doesn't keep me awake, but it does bother me. It shifts the atmosphere in the flat and makes things feel tense. The strange part is, she acts completely fine the next day. She goes to work, is upbeat, talks to me like normal. Sometimes I wonder if part of the crying is for effect, like she wants to remind me of what she's going through or get sympathy. Even though I know how that sounds, and I feel guilty even thinking it. I have not said anything because I understand it is a horrible situation, and I do not want to come across as cruel. She told me before that she did not get along with her dad. She said he was very controlling, and they were never close. She was much closer to her mom and younger sister. She also used to complain a lot about how restrictive life was where she grew up, how she felt trapped and unhappy, and how she could not wait to leave. She seemed genuinely relieved to be out and happy to be here. So, it is confusing for me that over a year later, the crying still happens this often. I know losing contact with family is traumatic, and I do not expect someone to just get over it. But at the same time, I feel like I have been silently dealing with the emotional weight of someone else's situation in my own home for a long time. I do care about her, but I'm starting to get irritated. Would I be the asshole if I asked her to tone it down? This is gonna sound like probably jumping to conclusions way hella out of the gate here, but there is a chance that after a year of there being no contact, that her family met a very tragic end, and she has no way to confirm it, no way to ask about it, no way to get contact. It's just totally lights out for communication, and she's left with only trying to figure out what may have happened. And she has no way of processing this or coming to terms with it, no way of getting confirmation of the events that actually happened because she can't go home. And chances are, there's probably a lot of baggage that is yet to be opened up or explored with her family, and revisiting and remending relationships where they might feel they could have done something differently or hoped for a different outcome. And now, they feel they may never get that. And they're trying to process that. They're trying to live life normally. They're trying to wake up with a smile on their face, but at night, the thoughts get to them. And now they have a roommate who's just completely incapable of understanding what they might be feeling or going through. Maybe just a crazy idea. Instead of asking her to tone down the crying, ask her how she's doing. Check in with her. Be a person. Be a pal. Be a friend. You call her your best friend in some of the comments, so act like it. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for telling my wife I feel sorry she's lacking in intelligence after she weaponized a suggestion I made to her about spending? My wife goes to a coffee house about 2 to 3 times per week. She works from home and goes there frequently. We share a joint account and both have credit cards in the app. She discovered this coffee shop a month ago and gets at least 2 to 3 drinks plus maybe a donut or a muffin every time. This has really increased some discretionary spending. I'm talking $9 lattes and $6 muffins, so it's significant. I approached my wife and asked her if she could mind cutting down those expenses a little bit. Or maybe if she feels like she has to buy something every time she goes, why doesn't she utilize the clubhouse in our apartment complex if she really wants to go outside the house? We do well financially, but I don't really like unnecessary spending. She didn't take that well, and just pouted her face like a big baby and said, "Fine." She just won't do it anymore since I want her to lose her mind. This really annoys me. I say one thing and she takes it completely differently, making it impossible to have any kind of decent discussion with her. This time, I didn't hold myself back from wanting to tell her something similar to energy and tone and said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were either trying to punish me or genuinely lacking in intelligence at what I said. I feel sorry for you." Of course, this annoyed her, and she asked me to say that again, and if I meant to make her feel that way. I said, "You heard what I said," and if it landed that badly, I'm okay with her sitting with it for now because lately, she's been turning every discussion into an argument, and I'm no longer softening myself around her. Do you, actually love your partner? Because even you, the person who is the narrator of the text of the story, you aren't even making yourself look favorable in the slightest, because there's always going to be a little bit of personal bias or unreliable narrator with each of these stories, and, it's just a matter of looking between the lines. In this case, dude, you potentially instigated an argument, or even just a simple conversation on your wife's ability to spend. She responds that she won't do it anymore, but that by you putting these limits in place, you're going to make her lose her mind, because chances are being cooped in the house all day is really taking a toll on her mental health. And then you respond by insulting her intelligence? Just right out the gate? Even if your wife is being argumentative, and you two are constantly bickering at each other, your escalation was entirely just cruel and unnecessary. And for all we know, because we have no idea how you approached the conversation, her tone and her attitude might just be her mirroring your energy back at you. This may not be her turning everything into an argument. It might just be her parroting your energy back at you. And in the end, if her work is making enough money to cover the costs of the roughly $30 worth of expenses that she's spending at the coffee shop, then why would it matter? If that cost is not causing you guys to potentially miss out on paying bills or not covering groceries, or it's eating away at your finances in a way where you need to start cutting corners, that's one thing. But by the sounds of it, that's not the issue at all. And that's according to you. But in the end, we have no idea how OP initially brought the conversation up. And we have no idea what the wife's tone was when the conversation was occurring. But what we do know, because OP seems pretty fucking proud of it, is the comment of, "Oh, I didn't realize you were either trying to punish me or are genuinely lacking in intelligence at what I said. I feel sorry for you." Are you trying to appeal to the neckbeards on Reddit, my man? Ugh. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to slow down or change how I bike with our 3-year-old daughter in a trailer? My wife and I recently moved to the US after years living in Europe. I'm American, she's Danish, and biking has always been a big part of our lives. Ever since our daughter was born 3 years ago, we've taken her on rides in a bike trailer. It was normal back in Europe, and we never had any issues. Now that we're in a more rural area, we ride on country roads. I usually pull the trailer, and my wife rides behind me. I tend to ride around 20 miles an hour, maybe up to 25 miles an hour if the conditions are good. The trailer is built for it. My daughter is securely strapped in, and I know what I'm doing. I work in tech, and I've been cycling for years. I don't need to run simulations or plug numbers into formulas. I can tell from how the bike moves what's safe and what's not. My wife has a PhD in physics, which she never hesitates to bring up when we disagree on anything, even slightly technical. Her specialty is fluid dynamics, and most of her work is on computers, so I don't really see how that applies to a bike trailer. A PhD in physics with a specialty in fluid dynamics, and you work in tech. How does tech apply more than someone with a PhD in physics with a specialty in fluid dynamics? God, dude. She keeps telling me I should slow down, avoid roads entirely, and only bike during the day and on proper trails. She says she saw the trailer wheel lift a little during a turn once. But I don't think that actually happened, and even if it did, a small amount is within the tolerance before it tips. I didn't feel anything, and I think I would know if something that serious occurred. I explained that with the weight and design of the trailer, it would take way more force than that to tip it. She keeps repeating the same concerns, and I keep telling her she's overreacting. I know what the limits are. I've ridden long enough to feel it. Physics isn't just equations, some of it is instinct and experience. I've never offered to slow down or change routes because I genuinely think what I'm doing is already safe. Even so, she still joins me on every ride. She follows behind me on her own bike and sometimes makes comments while we're riding. But she doesn't stop coming. It's frustrating because it feels like she doesn't trust me, even though I'm the one actually pulling the trailer and making the calls. Sometimes she'll pretend to be tired to get me to slow down, when before we had a child and rode without a trailer, she had better endurance than me. I love our daughter, and I'd never do anything to put her in danger, but I also think my wife is being overly cautious and letting her anxiety and emotions get in the way. Just because she has a physics degree doesn't mean she understands bike handling better than I do. Most pro riders don't have physics degrees. I trust what I feel on the road. I'm gonna take a look at a comment thread started by Strangled in Moonlight. Dude refuses to bike on dedicated bike trails or slow down because it's not fun. He's prioritizing his ego and his fun over his child's safety. He thinks his wife is lying about seeing the wheels come off the ground. Super gross. Not sure if he just hates his wife or if he just thinks he's better than her. Eliza Breathe responds. He also thinks he's smarter than her on the subject because he works in tech, even though her specialty is physics, which is far more relevant. Seems like a lot of it is anger that his wife is almost certainly smarter than him. Pervanta responds to that comment. My tech bro X got in a heated discussion with his friend about how public health should encourage smoking cessation. He wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise, so I just sat there with my advanced degree in health promotion/behavior change and listened to him be wrong. And another one from Impressive Amoeba 97. Oof. This dude is disregarding someone well-versed in physics while maintaining his feelings are paramount. It's all fun and games until he miscalculates. It would have cost him nothing to recalibrate, and he's not getting she's going on every bike ride because she doesn't trust him not to cause their child harm. This marriage is in more trouble than he realizes, and one day he's gonna get divorce papers and yell to everyone it came out of nowhere. Double Performance 5 responds, but it's fluid dynamics and it's on a computer. How could she and her incredibly detailed knowledge of practical physics be more equipped than his trust me bro? So I used to do some pretty reckless and stupid shit on the side of a mountaintop at extreme speeds with another person. It was certainly an activity done out of teenaged angst and a way to kind of de-stress. Don't do it, it's really fucking dangerous. But when I was doing stupid shit, I never had anyone in my passenger seat because I knew that what I was doing was risky and dangerous. I knew that I was putting myself at risk, but I had the confidence that I would make it home that night. However, even with all my confidence, there is still that 0.1% that something would go wrong, that something would fuck up and I would not come home that night. And because of that, even though it was a 0.1% in my mind, I still never put someone else at risk by having them in the passenger seat. Ever. Even though that I was confident with my car, that I could feel everything about it. But even with that confidence and understanding of what your vehicle, car, or bike is capable of, there is still no predicting the things that are not within your control. Another car coming towards you, a spot in the road where the asphalt's just a little bit too loose, or even rocks around a turn that you weren't expecting. At lower, more controlled speeds, those situations are negligible and just common play. But at higher speeds where you're relying off of confidence to get you through, there's still room for error. And all your wife is asking is for there to be no room for error, and for you just to simply have your daughter's safety in line and in check. And you're not. You're letting your pride and your ego get the best of you, to the point where you're willing to correct your wife, who has a PhD in physics and a specialty in fluid mechanics, on how physics works. All it takes is for that 0.1% to happen, and for your child to hit their head against a part of the trailer that they weren't expecting to. And that's it. Their life has changed forever, because you wouldn't slow down. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.